One out of the latest on yesterday's terror attack in the heart of London. An American tourist is among the 4 that were killed. His name is Kurt Cochran. He was in Europe celebrating his 25th wedding anniversary with his wife, Melissa. She's recovering from serious injuries in the hospital right now. We also have learned that police have identified the attacker as Khalid Masood, a 52-year-old British citizen. His rampage began Wednesday afternoon when he drove a car into pedestrians on Westminster Bridge before ramming into the gates of Parliament. After the crash, he managed to stab an unarmed police officer before being shot to death. Teri Okita is following the latest for us. She's in London. Teri, what more do we know about the suspect?
Well, we know that he wasn't the target or the suspect of any current investigation. He did have a criminal background of assaults and possession of a knife, but he was not ever convicted of a terrorism-related charge. They do still think that he acted alone, but ISIS has claimed responsibility, saying that he was a soldier of the Islamic State. They know that Masood rented a car in Birmingham, and that's where the investigation took investigators and police overnight, and that's when they raided several homes in the Birmingham area, and they also looked at some homes in London as well.
Teri, what can you tell us about the overnight raids that took place in London?
Yeah, the overnight raids took place in London and in Birmingham, and 8 people were arrested. Right now, they think there is a link between those who were arrested and Khalid Masood. And the investigation continues. There are hundreds of officers on this case alone. They've got hundreds of witnesses to talk to. If they haven't talked to them already, they've got closed-circuit TV video to look at and examine. And Rena, let me tell you, there's been a huge police presence in the air, on the streets. You might have heard the sirens going on along the water as well. They want to try to reassure the public that they are safe here in the capital.
Yeah, the intelligence is quite good there in London. I can imagine the police work equally as well. I want to ask you about this devastating story about this American who was killed celebrating his wedding anniversary. What else can you tell us about Kurt Cochran and his wife who was injured?
It really hits home, doesn't it? Yeah, he was celebrating his 25th anniversary, as you said. And like a lot of tourists who come here, they had gone to Parliament. They were, taking a tour of the capital, of the area where a lot of tourists go. It's a very popular place. And unfortunately, he was the victim, and it really hits home when it's an American, doesn't it? He and his wife is still hospitalized, were the victims of this. We know that they were here celebrating. They were members of the Latter-day Saints Church. They sent out condolences, the church did. We even heard from the president, who sent out condolences in a tweet about he and his wife. Sad day. He's one of 2 victims who died. There was another civilian. She was from Spain, and she died as well in this. And there was a police officer who was killed. He was stabbed to death. What's interesting about this, Rena, I should tell you, is a couple of weeks ago, we had interviewed a terrorism expert who was commissioned by some British lawmakers to write a comprehensive report, and it may be the most comprehensive report on UK terrorism in the last 2 decades or so. She looked at instances of terrorist attacks and offenses, and this was almost a textbook classic case. For instance, the UK's biggest threat right now is homegrown terrorists, British-born citizens, or those who have dual citizenship, who are strongly influenced by what they see and what they read on the internet. She also told us that these targets are soft urban targets these days, where a lot of civilians and the public go. They're not these institutions like banks, financial institutions, transportation sites anymore. They're going for soft targets. Lone wolf attacks are also on the rise, instead of these big cells that we used to see 10 or 20 years ago. And they're low-tech attacks as well. They're looking at violent attacks like stabbing. So that's how terrorism in the UK has evolved.
That's fascinating to hear that report, Teri, and the fact that I'm sure a great deal of intelligence and focus in the police work there is on trying to penetrate these groups and these individuals, which is not easy to do. Teri Okita, thank you so much.